Good day to everyone joining us, and welcome to today's X-Talks webinar. Today's talk is utilizing cutting-edge technologies to increase clinical trial access and drive faster enrollment. My name is Ryan Muse, and I'll be your X-Talks host for today. Today's webinar will run for approximately 60 minutes, and this presentation includes a Q&A session with our speaker. Now, the webinar is designed to be interactive, and webinars work best when you are involved. So please feel free to submit your questions and comments for our speaker throughout the presentation using the questions chat box, and we'll try to attend to your questions during the Q&A session. This chat box is located in the control panel, which is on the right-hand side of your screen. And if you require any assistance along the way, please contact me at any time by sending a message using the same chat panel. At this time, know that all participants are in listen-only mode, and please note that the event will be recorded and made available for streaming on xtalks.com. At this point, I'd like to thank Elligo, who developed the content for this presentation. Elligo Health Research, a healthcare enabling research organization powered by their novel Intelligo research stack technology, utilizes electronic health records and the trusted patient and physician relationship to ensure all patients have access to clinical research as a care option. They directly engage physicians and patients who otherwise would not participate in clinical research and accelerate the development of new pharmaceutical, biotechnology, and medical device and diagnostic products. Now, I would like to introduce our speaker for today's event. Raj Sharma is a healthcare innovator who is on a mission to improve healthcare and life science operations. Throughout Sharma's 10 years plus experience in healthcare innovation, he has used his expertise in digital strategy, technology, and finance to found digital health companies. Most recently, Raj founded Root Health, a conversational AI software scaling across hundreds of clinical trials. Sharma has also helped launch a digital prescription delivery service adopted across an entire health system servicing millions of patients. And so now, without further ado, I'd like to hand the presentation over to our speaker, Raj Sharma. You may begin when you're ready.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ryan. And first and foremost, this is a very special X Talks because this is Ryan's birthday today. Let's all take a second, wish Ryan happy birthday, and ask Ryan, what are you going to be doing for your birthday? Let us vicariously live through you, please.
Well, I mean, the weather is great, vaccinations are up, restrictions are easing. It should make for pretty great circumstances to celebrate a birthday this year with friends, as opposed to last, of course. Thank you very much for asking.
Of course. And let me ask you just very quickly, can you see my screen properly? And is everything great?
Yes, I can. Everything looks great.
All right. So we're talking about cutting edge AI technologies, specifically in the enrollment and compliance space in clinical research. So first and foremost, we now live in a digital world. I don't have to tell you that, especially after the pandemic. There is just a concerted shift of online attention and consumer attention in the online world. There's also a shift in the focus on the individual consumer than as the market as a whole. So this patient consumerization, what does it mean for us in clinical research? That means that individuals are asserting more influence and control over their medical and wellness care. So messaging has actually surpassed social media in active users around the world. There are currently 19 billion text messages sent every single day. 6 billion of those are in the US alone. And they have a whopping 98 to 99% open rate. So it generally is a great way to bring up awareness and education to consumers and patients out there. Text messages also have a 2009 higher percent response rate than phone or email. Secondly, Nielsen reported in 2018 that we spent 12 hours in front of a digital device. This was before the pandemic. After the pandemic, this number has increased significantly across the board. Clinical studies themselves have changed. We don't need to say that, every other word or every other marketing term is around decentralization of clinical studies. But what does that really mean? That means that remote engagement, or how relationships are formed, has now changed in clinical research. That means personalized and interactive support is expected 24/7 from patients all the time. Decentralized studies themselves need more support. Increasing complexity of all clinical research requires agile operations. Total endpoints per study have tripled from 2005 to 2020. So the increasing complexity is real and here to stay. Limited clinician time requires scalability and effectiveness of resources. These more endpoints to test require more sites and require more scale from us as operators to try to take technology and scale and meet these needs of clinical studies in today's day and age. On top of this, clinical studies also need to collect and analyze real-time data to see where things could be falling through the cracks and where things can be improved to get back on track. So really, the question still comes back to, how do you connect with this one person in the digital world, especially as only 1 out of 100 patients may be right and interested in a clinical study? So let's pause here for our poll question.
Well, thank you very much indeed. We have a poll question for audience members to interact with. This should be appearing on everyone's screen right now, and you can select any of the answers that you see in front of you and then click submit to participate. The question asks, how many phone calls do you think a patient engagement team makes before someone picks up? Your answer options are 1 to 2 attempts, 2 to 3 attempts, 3 to 4 attempts, or 4 to 5 attempts. We'll give everyone a few seconds to consider an answer, how you think this would play out. It looks like most of you have submitted an answer, so thank you very much for participating. Let's take a look at those results. Here we have 56% of you have selected 3 to 4, 28, 4 to 5, 17% 2 to 3, and none of you have selected 1 to 2. Thank you very much again, and Raj, it's back to you.
Well, everyone is definitely trending in the right direction there. So let us touch upon that shortly when we discuss that poll question in greater detail in just a little bit of time. So before before you develop any technology, really, it's important to ask those researchers and operators what is the most important part of a clinical study in their opinion. And it really always comes back in some way or form to recruitment and retention, because essentially without participation, there is no study. So then, in asking these research teams and in developing technologies, how can we recruit, enroll, and retain more participants? The answer across the thousands of teams we interviewed was, in fact, shockingly simple. It was more personalized, one-on-one conversation. One world-class investigator, we actually said it best: clinical studies start with conversations. But how do you, as one researcher or one operator, have thousands of conversations? Especially when 1 out of the 100 may be right and interested in that clinical study, to touch upon that number in the past. That's where AI virtual assistants come in. They change the paradigm of clinical research to become patient-centric, but also empower healthcare providers to have more one-on-one empathetic with conversations with patients or participants at scale. So let's go through a typical participant journey. Let's go through the typical participant journey of Liz. So Liz is, similar to many other participants currently in today's day and age. She's looking for an asthma study, and she's been looking for months. She's currently frustrated that she must find her own answers. And after finding a study she may be interested in, she fills out 15-question survey, but she's still not sure if she's qualified. 1 week later, she gets a call during work. Liz is one of the few Americans who can take 30 minutes in her workday for a personal call. And she takes the time, she has the conversations, and in fact, only 31% of patients or participants, potential participants, make it to this stage of onboarding. The study coordinator, introduces Liz to the study and can ask her more questions. Liz finally finds out if she's qualified and is given a screening appointment, either through email or is given a reminder over the phone. With her family and work, Liz has a lot on her plate, and her appointment slips her mind. She frantically looks up directions and tries to make it to her appointment on time. Only 13% of patients or potential participants make it to the screening phase. This journey is challenging for Liz and demonstrates why less than 3% of patients end up participating in clinical research. So let's just see how this journey could be different if we designed an empathetic technology to help support Liz on this journey. Let's see how we can make it easier for Liz to participate. So Liz is searching for that on the web for the asthma study, and she can quickly scan a QR code to text a chatbot or an AI virtual assistant to find out more about a study she may be interested in. Notice first and foremost, Liz did not have to download an app or have a password to remember. She simply texts this chatbot like she would a friend or her family. The AI assistant or chatbot can text Liz back in a friendly, personal way to tell her more about the study, and she's a good fit. It's intelligent enough to just gather a few questions about Liz and find out if she's right. Liz can take a step back and say, hey, is this the right study? What is this study about? And AI assistants or chatbots have the intelligence to answer Liz appropriately when she has those questions. So Liz, can answer a few questions through an AI assistant, and that's it. First and foremost, I want to pause on these questions. These questions are flexible. They are also customizable, and they're very simple for a potential participant or patient to answer. They come up in a mobile-friendly way and are just simple questions to see if they would be better qualified. With Liz, that, as I mentioned, she can answer a few questions, and then that's it. The chatbot or AI assistant is smart enough to know that if Liz is not qualified, to let her know immediately, but also to ask her to engage in future studies, to keep that engagement and let Liz know that in the future, this chatbot can support her. If Liz is qualified, an AI assistant can let her know and ask her to start scheduling a screening appointment. Liz can choose a time that works for her schedule. That's so important to mention. In this modality, participants are empowered to select times and appointments that work for them. And this, just by reaching out through text messaging alone, AI assistant or chatbots can increase access for patients all across the world to clinical research. 5 billion people in the world can send and receive text messages because you do not need a smartphone to do so. In fact, you can even ask other assistants like Alexa to text as well. So very powerful and flexible modality of communication. On top of that, we mentioned how text messaging has a 98% open rate. So you can reach the patient and can communicate with them when you want to communicate with them. On the day before her appointment, an AI assistant can send Liz a reminder, directions, and can even provide her instructions for her appointment. These are information at the right time for Liz so she can do the necessary protocol activities that are necessary for her to complete the clinical study. So In this way, an AI assistant can answer all of Liz's questions so she feels comfortable and ready before her appointment. On the day of her appointment, Liz can check in remotely from her phone to ensure greater participant and patient safety. Remember again that Liz did not have an app or an app to download or password to remember. Liz can just easily text the chatbot like she does her friend. An AI assistant for one clinical study decreased missed appointments 50% year over year. Missed appointments cost the US healthcare system $150 billion. If you recall the empowerment I'd mentioned just simply before, by empowering patients to select times that work for them, this can allow them to work and find clinical research opportunities and studies that work for them. So what's great is that, Liz has this chatbot or AI assistant has this personal conversation with Liz, but also millions of participants like her. An AI assistant takes each conversation and has this personal conversation with patients to help them specifically as a study buddy on their journey. The AI assistant can send links, can send videos, can support them with their appointments, can send them PDFs, their informed consent. It's such a powerful modality for patients to engage. And what's really great is that it can unite this and have this one multi-channel communication platform for sites where they can call, text, or email patients and really engage with them in a multi-channel driven way and engage with patients on how they want to engage with clinical research. On top of that, they can capture all of these conversations and convert them into real-time automated enrollment metrics available to sponsors and sites to enhance that data-driven decision-making and improve operations. The thing that we talked about earlier about clinical studies changing, this allows you to capture all this information in real time and let you know what a patient is thinking and feeling about clinical research as well. In fact, the AI assistant can learn from the thousands of real-life patient conversations it has and get smarter with each and every new study in new therapeutic areas. For example, it can find new commonly asked questions that a patient wants to ask in a cancer therapeutic area or another therapeutic area. Providing an enhanced participant experience like Liz is really time consuming for sites, let's be honest. And they already have enough on their plate. Before, it took sites thousands of clicks and calls to find one qualified participant. Of that 100, only one is interested and qualified. With an AI assistant, sites can leverage this technology to provide a better participant experience with less work. The AI assistant can work alongside staff to reduce administrative burden. It can reduce the administrative burden, repetitive tasks like calling participant after participant, only to be told it's not a good time to talk. Scheduling and rescheduling participants with multiple no-shows. Answering repetitive questions like where's parking or where's my compensation. This allows, by saving all of this time, sites and patient engagement teams can focus their attention on what's important. One-on-one patient conversations. That real problem that thousands of researchers had told us was the core issue of enrollment and retention in clinical research. And hiring an AI assistant is like adding 3 world-class team members to your research site: a front office assistant, an intake specialist, a patient concierge, to create this one digital enrollment channel for your sites, where patients can engage your site with a phone, by calling, by text messaging, through websites or links, or even QR codes. An AI assistant takes each and every patient through the enrollment process and allows sites to have better operations and reporting. Additionally, an AI assistant doesn't allow a patient to ever fall through the crack. So important. You can see what happens to a patient no matter what happens, even if they're uninterested. This also allows you to create interesting disease-based or time-based enrollment, where an AI assistant can introduce the study, engage the participant, and allow a connection point to allow a patient engagement team to engage with them immediately. Allow the participants to express a disease progression or a new change in environmental circumstances. And then once it's right, a patient engagement team can roll out and start to engage and enroll the patient again. As you can see, the virtual assistant, the AI assistant or chatbot works hand in hand with patient engagement teams to create novel engagements that have never existed before and allow for advanced clinical research enrollment strategies. On top of that, AI tools and AI assistants can also increase readability, reach, and sentiment. Outreach marketing has easy readability, wide reach, and positive sentiments to create successful conversion rates. So before something might have be poor in terms of readability, have multiple issues like sentence density, and have limited access and reach to patients. With AI tools, all of this can change and allow for greater accessibility to patients so they can understand the outreach that is being conducted to them. On top of this, this AI assistant can automatically drive community awareness at the site level, whether through websites, social media, in-clinic, even through postcards. You can take that awareness that you generate and go take that patient through pre-screening to the site, and it's repeatable for any study. And at the same time, the site can also select what type of enrollment strategies they want to take. It's very powerful and flexible, as you can see. So for example, one site may determine that postcards are the most optimal strategy to reach out to bring awareness. Through an AI assistant, they can put a phone number as well as a QR code for patients to easily scan or text in to find out more and even start pre-screening and enrolling into the study. So you can see how it's a lot easier to drive awareness even at the community and site level. AI assistants also allow you to create this agile, multi-channel patient engagement where you can conduct text outreach. Within day 3, conduct email outreach, and then start conducting phone outreach for the patients that were unresponsive. And lastly, then to conduct postcards conduct some postcard outreach to further engage patients and see if you can engage them through that modality. So as you can see, in this way, this allows for both traditional and digital media, allows for enhanced marketing and awareness operations for your site, but also allows you to intake and engage them appropriately for clinical research, all automatically. And why that's important is because it gives you the time to focus on engagement. That's what I had just mentioned before. For one site, an AI assistant scheduled almost 40% of the 350 total appointments over a 12-month period, allowing the site to focus on the frequency and quality of patient engagement. Across all studies that an AI assistant has run through our studies, patients have scheduled almost 20% of appointments outside of normal business hours. These are so many patients that this AI assistant allows to capture when your teams might not be available to meet patient needs. For one phase 3 COVID-19 vaccine trial, an AI assistant automation first approach led to a site closing enrollment in 5 days. An AI assistant supported 197 patients and engaged them, pre-screened 104, scheduled 113 appointments, and sent 339 reminders and confirmations, all automatically. This saved the time for the site to focus on that one-on-one patient interaction that actually increases patient centricity. So I'm going to pause here and start going through some of our questions.
Well, thank you very much for that insightful presentation. I would like to invite our audience to continue sending their questions or comments right now with the questions window for this Q&A portion of the webinar. Now, I've already received some questions, so we'll get ourselves started with those. The very first question we have for you asks, why should we, clinical researchers, use text messaging?
That is a fantastic question. And, I had spoken how messaging has surpassed social media in active users around the world. It's because it's such a engaging and personal way to reach out and, speak about something, interact. That's why there's almost 19 billion text messages sent every single day, 6 billion in the US. I've mentioned that it also has a really high open rate, 98%, or even some statistics say 99%. This is a significantly higher response rate, over 200%, than both phone or email. All this is to say that messaging works because it reaches patients or potential participants, allowing you to engage with them effectively in clinical research.
Excellent, thank you very much. The next question we have for you asks, do older people text? Older adults, do you find any difficulty with that?
You know what, and that's a really, really great question. And you would be surprised to find out that that answer is actually yes. Because it is a very personal form of communication. I'd mentioned that more and more people are willing to test, and research suggests that not only are older people or older adults willing to participate in clinical interventions involving texting, but often older adults prefer texting interventions, especially if they add convenience or are easily accessible. And I'm happy to share that specific study right after this call as well. So in fact, texting is great for older adults because it relies on words, and one thing that improves actually as we age is verbal skills and vocabulary. That's why relying and capitalizing on this strength can be really important to reach older adults and engage with them for clinical research.
Excellent, thank you. Next question would like to know, can you talk about pre-screening? Specifically, how can we make pre-screening smarter?
That is a great question as well. So pre-screening is very interesting. Obviously, it is a fantastic tool for sites and study teams to engage with patients and ask them more information to see if they might be right for the study. Conversely, on the other side, patients might be sick of answering, thousands of questions if they have to do so, even in the digital format. So that's why it's really important to kind of strike a delicate balance, ensure that you're asking the right questions first and foremost, asking questions that patients can understand and have access to. I had mentioned that readability metric and facts a little bit before. And then lastly, to make pre-screen smarter through the digital tools by, for example, if a pre-screener has different questions for different age groups, you can make pre-screening tools in today's day and age very intelligent by stratifying those questions appropriately for those different patient cohorts. So those are some factors that you can really utilize whatever pre-screening tool that you're using today to make pre-screening smarter and more engaging for patients and have higher conversion rates.
Excellent, thank you. The next question we have for you asks, how successful is this platform when searching for subjects to participate in trials where physician engagement is required?
So that's where actually it's even more powerful, right? So where is there a current disconnect? If a physician speaks to you about something, it's really hard now to take that traditional interaction, a non-digital interaction, and now make that into a digital interaction. Through text messaging, it's so simple. The physician can simply pass out a postcard to that patient and say, text this keyword to this number, and you can find out more about this study and engage with patient engagement specialists as well to find out more about this study. So in that way, it really kind of is that handoff that's really needed right now to make that physician relationship, that dyad, that physician-patient dyad, a lot significantly more powerful.
Thank you very much. For our next question, we have someone asking, how can we, clinical researchers, improve patient understanding?
Yeah, so that's a great question as well. So I had first talked about readability and how that was so important to ensure that patients are understanding what you're trying to convey to them. Clinical research is not an easy topic to understand. And actually, we go through these presentations and they become more and more and more complex over a period of time. It is a hard topic. And so we need to really work as experts in this industry to simplify this content and ensure that patient understanding is put above all else. And as I mentioned, that is first and foremost ensuring readability for patients. That means ensuring that through those different indexes that exist, readability scores that exist, that you can ensure that you're pushing that reading level to a lower level and ensuring that patients understand. So that's first and foremost. The next is around text density and sentence structure. It's important to put and frame recruitment material and patient interaction in a you first type of language where it tells the patient directly what's in it for me, what's important, why is this important, what do I have to do? Those three critical questions. So they're very important to kind of address and ensure that the patient understands. And then lastly, to ensure the sentiment of how you're conveying things. Is it a positive sentiment? Is it professional in tone? So these are a lot of kind of ways that we can use new AI tools to take old rating scales and apply them at scale and ensure that these kind of patient understanding can improve and that we're communicating to the patients in the right way.
Very good, thank you. The next question asks, how does the tool get the information out to the potential subjects?
So it'll go out through text messaging. So I had maybe I can show you some of the screenshots, but it might be a little too difficult to go back and forth. But if you recall, and you can rewind later, it goes out all through simple text messaging. Open up your iMessage, or if you have a flip phone, your messaging kind of tool that's down there, and open it up, and you simply start texting. Even if you have those old Blackberries, simply text messaging. So, and all the information is communicated through text messaging and links. The links then provide additional information. Those links can be utilized through to capture additional pre-screening information or communicate more information through a study website or videos to the patient. So that's how the tool conveys the information to the patient. And I also want to kind of pause here as well and let you know that what is powerful about this, again, is that there's no app for the patient to download or password for them to remember. The tool can simply proactively and in a friendly way reach out to patients to address their questions. So I hope that addressed your question.
Wonderful, thank you. The next question we have would like to know if you work also outside the US.
Currently, we're working to expand the tool outside the US, but that's what's so great about language. It doesn't require a dramatic change in user interface or other challenging things to scale globally. While language is also a challenging thing to scale, especially with clinical translation taken into consideration, significantly slightly easier than changing UI across the globe as well. So just long story short, it's in the works.
That's great. Excellent. Thank you very much for that answer and for all of the answers. However, we have reached the end of our time here today. Now, if we couldn't attend to your questions, the team at Elligo may follow up with you, or if you have further questions, you can direct them to the email address that's up on your screen. I want to thank everyone for participating in today's webinar. You will be receiving a follow-up email from Xtalks with access to the recorded archive for this event. A survey window will be popping up on your screen as you exit, and your participation is appreciated as it will help us to improve our webinars. Now, I'm about to send you a link in the chat box, and with this link, you'll be able to view the recording of this event on this page, and you can also share this link with your colleagues when they register for the recording here as well. So I encourage you to do that. Now, please join me once more in thanking our speaker for his time today, Raj Sharma. We hope that you all found the webinar informative. Have a great day, everyone, and thanks for coming.
Thank you.